What's up, friends? It's Tess. This is Wonder Wealthy, and as part of the Financial Glow Up series, I'm going to be answering a question that I got from one of you, actually. Megan asks, "Hi Tess, for this series, could you do a video on how to create a budget for moving out on your own for the first time? I am trying to move to a big city, Toronto, and I'm struggling to adjust my budget from renting from my parents to a significantly higher market rent, renter's insurance, and other expenses. Any advice you would have would be awesome. Thanks." All right, Megan, this is such a common question that I get among lots of people who are making that transition from college to career, which is exactly what the Financial Glow Up series is for. So thank you so much for asking, and here are my 4 best tips to help you build your budget and start budgeting for this big time move. By the way, if you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell because you don't want to miss more of the Financial Glow Up series plus other fun videos that I have coming down the pipeline. All right, for tip number 1, that is to cherish this time that you are able to have a more affordable rent with your parents, and even if you personally are living with your parents rent-free, that is awesome. Use this opportunity to start saving money into a separate savings account to build up an emergency savings fund. So many people, especially college graduates, fail to see this as an opportunity. When they are stuck living with their parents, they're not super excited about it, except now they have some extra beer money. Well, instead of having extra beer money, look at that as extra emergency savings fund money and put this money towards that fund so that when you do finally move into your new apartment out on your own away from your parents and you have higher rent, you at least have that cushion, that buffer in your account so that when emergencies strike, you can dip into it and use that instead of having to go into credit card debt or, God forbid, miss a rent payment. My second tip is to start budgeting now as if you are already moved out. And I know this sounds a little bit confusing, but start doing your research on what average rental prices are going to look like and figure out what your budgeted rental price is. This can also help you while you're looking for a new place to move into, what is realistically going to fit into your own personal budget. But start budgeting that way now, a couple weeks or even a couple months before you move out of mom and dad's, so you can get used to that and make sure that you're not gonna completely blow your budget when you do make that move. Now, what do you do with all this extra money that you're not technically spending, but you've budgeted as if you're going to spend it? Well, you use that money and put it into that savings account for that emergency savings fund to start building that up. So I just told you how to do number 1 with number 2. My third tip is just to consider all of those expenses that you probably aren't considering right now. There are a lot of things that you will have to pay for when you move out of mom and dad's that you probably don't even realize, if you are paying rent, that they're using that money to pay for. Things like utilities, cable and internet bills. If they're cutting you off of the cell phone plan, then you're gonna be paying for your own cell phone bill. Depending on where you're gonna be moving into, you might have to pay for parking. Then there are things like cleaning supplies, which are hard to predict, but you can ask your parents kind of how much they generally budget for cleaning supplies, or you can use the anti-budget and just know that your daily number should cover cleaning supplies as well as all the other random variable things that you will be paying for too. If you want to learn more about the anti-budget, you can go to the link I'll put on the screen as well as in the description box to get in on the free training. Other things you might not currently be paying for would be something like groceries, and then of course renter's insurance, which honestly is not that expensive but very important to have, because if your camera or your computer or something else that is really expensive that you love goes missing, hopefully you'll be covered. The other item I do want to make sure I mention in this, costs you probably haven't considered is if you just recently graduated but you had student loans in school, then you may not be paying on those yet, but that's another thing you're gonna have to budget for come 6 months down the line, assuming you're in your grace period right now. So don't forget about that. And then of course there's going to be upfront costs if you are moving out on your own. Things like the deposit that you have to pay and the first month's rent. Make sure you have enough saved on top of your emergency savings fund. You obviously need to have some of that money to help you when you are making that move. There's also going to be costs for moving if you can't have someone help you out with the moving. And there's also the fact that you might need to furnish the apartment. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can save money here. First of all, get roommates. If you can get roommates, it can drastically cut down on your cost of living day to day, as well as the deposit that you would put down, and even the furnishing, because maybe they'll bring some furniture and you'll bring some furniture. Also consider asking older siblings, older cousins, or even aunts and uncles or your parents if they have some old furniture, even kitchen supplies and all of that other stuff that they're not gonna be using or that they just wanna get rid of, and be happy to accept that right now. If you're currently in a situation where you're trying to figure out how you're gonna make it all work, then trying to figure out how you're going to furnish your apartment by going to Target or West Elm is not an option for you. Right now is the time to live off of borrowed goods, and that is a-okay. All in all, there are going to be additional expenses you need to consider, and just start practicing by putting them in your budget now to make sure that it won't be a huge shock when you do finally move out. All right, my friends, the fourth tip that I have for you when it comes to budgeting so you can be prepared to move out on your own is to actually set up automatic payments for all of these bills and any other bills or debt payments that you need to make. It can be scary to set up automatic transfers from your bank account to these bills that you have, but it is so important to make sure that you are paying your bills on time and in full every month so you don't really ruin your credit score, which is something you'll, want to make sure you have up to snuff potentially in the future. You also just don't want to have to pay a lot of late fees or additional fees for not making your payments. But so many people fail to realize that these bills come due every month. Moving out on your own and, making a lot of phone calls and setting a lot of things up, a lot of things are all happening at once, and sometimes we just forget about things. So while you're going through this process, make sure you set up automatic bill pay so that you can ensure that your bills are being paid and you don't have to worry about it. And as long as this is included in the budget that you set up for yourself and you made sure that you could afford that, then you should be good to go. But it's always wise to do a budget review, especially in the first couple months that you're on your own. Do it every single month, if not every single week. And then eventually, as you are living on your own into the future, you can do it every couple months or even every quarter. So Megan and everyone else out there ready to make that leap from living with MND to doing it on your own, I hope that these tips help you build a budget that is realistic, sustainable, and allows you to make that move as soon as possible. But make sure that you do your due diligence. Make sure that you have your savings up to snuff and you're ready for this move. It's a big one, but it's a fun one. Good luck, and until next time, I hope you wander wealthy. Bye!